All right, let's do some math. We're still multiplying decimals, so this will be pretty similar to what you were doing in workbook exercise 28. But let's talk through a little bit more how to multiply by decimals. Flip open your textbook to page 48. That's where we're going to be looking. And we may actually combine this lesson with what you'll need to know for for exercises 30 and 31. So we'll just see. First though, let's practice just multiplying decimals before we practice estimating. So starting on page 48, we have multiply 25 hundredths by 3. Okay, 25 hundredths by 3 whole. Okay, let's look at your textbook to see what it's doing. Here we have some renaming, right? Because first thing we're doing, we're ignoring this 2 and just multiplying 5 hundredths by 3. So what we're doing is multiplying 5 hundredths by 3. Well, what is 5 times 3? It's 15, right? So I can't put all 15 hundredths right here. I just can't. So I have to rename 10 of my hundredths to be 1/10. Okay, now I have 2/10 times 3, which is 6, plus 1 more is 7. And then I have 0 ones times 3, which is 0. And I need to count how many numbers are behind my decimal point, 1, 2. So I'm going to count 1, 2 over to know where to put my decimal point. So my answer is 0.75. So multiplying is pretty easy. It's just like you were multiplying numbers without a decimal. It's just where you have to put your decimal in the end. All right, so now let's do the next one, 4.53, so 4 and 53 hundredths times 2. Okay, first things first, we only deal with our hundredths place. So 3 hundredths times 2 is 6 hundredths. I don't have to rename anything. 5 tenths times 2 is 10. I can't have more than 9 of anything, so I trade 10 of my tenths in for 1, 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. So our answer is 9 and 6 hundredths. Pretty simple. Okay, let's do a couple of these on task number 9 together, so you can do them on a piece of paper, what have you, or on a whiteboard if you have one, and then you can check your answer against mine. So let's do C. 3 and 12 hundredths times 4. Pause me. I'm going to flip. Okay, here we have 2 hundredths times 4 is 8 hundredths. 1/10 times 4 tenths is 4. And 3 ones times 4 is 12. So 12.48. And then let's do F. 4 and 52 hundredths times 8. Pause me. I'm going to flip. Here, start 2 hundredths times 8 is 16. Can't have 16 here, so I trade in 10 hundredths for 1/10. 5/10 times 8 is 40. Plus one more is 41. I put my 1 here and I trade in 40 of my tenths to make 4 new ones. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 4 more is 36. Okay, if you still need some help or need some practice multiplying those, feel free to pause here, do some more of those on page 49, show them to a parent. If not, we're going to move on to estimating. So let's look at how we could estimate some things. So estimating, really, we can use rounding. So if we were to estimate, so look at number 12 on page 49, this little chickadee who is doing this in her head. It says to estimate the value of 6.84 times 9. Okay, let's use our rounding to think how we could get closest to this. So 6.84. If I wanted to estimate this or round it so that I could easily multiply it by 9, I would want to go ahead and round it to a whole number. So I'm going to look at my tenths place to figure out what to round my ones place to. So since the number in my tenths place is greater than 5, or if it was 5, equal to or greater than 5, I'm going to round this number up. If this was a 4, I would keep this number the same. I wouldn't make it 5. I never round down. It either stays the same or it increases by 1. But since this is an 8, this number is closer to 7 than it is to 6. So if I want to estimate what 6.84 times 9 is, I'm going to round 6.84 to 7. And what's 7 times 9? 63. So to estimate that value, you could just use 7 times 9. Now let's actually do it and see how close the answer is to 63. Because remember, estimating really helps us to double check our work or estimate first and then actually perform it. So then you could be like, oh, does that make sense? Does that answer sound right? Because when I estimated, it was close to 63, and if I get a crazy number here that's nowhere near 63, I might know to try again with my problem. So let's start 4 times 9. 8 times 9 is 72. 60. So I got 61.56. It's pretty close to 63. I'll take it. I can safely think that this answer is correct. So now on 13, it wants us to estimate and then multiply. So here's what I want you to do at home. I want you to go ahead and write out what you would estimate the answer to be. If you do that in your head, that's fine. Just do it and then write it down either on a piece of paper or your whiteboard, and then actually do the problem and see if they're close. And I'll do it here and we'll check back. So go ahead and do your estimating and what that estimated answer is, and then actually go ahead and do the problem and find the answer. You can pause me if you need to. I'm going to move on. So my estimated answer was 20 because I rounded 3.9 up to 4, and 4 times 5 is 20. My real answer came out to be 19.5. That is pretty darn close to 20. So I'm going to assume that I got it correct. Okay, let's do B. B as in boy. Same thing. Estimate and then really work it out. Okay. Here my estimate was 8. I went ahead and rounded 72 hundredths up to a whole number. You could have just rounded it to the nearest tenth and gotten 0.7. 0.7 times 8 you can probably do in your head, and you would have gotten a lot closer of an estimate than I did. I like to round to whole numbers just because that's what I can easily do in my head. So I know that about myself. I give myself the grace to do that. But if you can round to a tenths place instead of a ones place, you'll get a lot closer of an estimate. Because I got my answer and I thought, well, that's not really that close to my estimate. And then I realized, well, yeah, I could have rounded it differently and gotten a little bit closer to my estimate. But that's what I got, and it's not too far off the mark, so that's what I got. And now go ahead and do C. C's a big old number. Alright, so here I did 6 times 30 in my head. I rounded it to the nearest tens place and got 30. So 180 was my estimate. Then when I did it, I got 178.38, which is pretty darn close. So yeah. Alright. 14 looks like it's the exact same thing, except it's money. We can do, well, I'm going to run out of time. I think if you're still feeling a little iffy about estimating and then finding the answer, then pause / just this video is almost over. So take some time and do 14 A, B, and C on your own, estimating and then finding the answer. And then this is actually good for workbook exercises 29, 30, and 31. So the next few days you may not have a new video. You can just refer to this one if you need to.